Ladies and gentlemen, I have big news. Going forward here, I have GT and Connor as my two co hosts moving forward. I think the addition of their perspectives and their mindsets on topics just adds more relatable content for you guys to listen to. This episode, in episode 12, the topic we discussed was perfectly imperfect, how people in their 20s was kind of molded by social media and honestly all media to try to chase perfection or be this perfect person, and how the reality is, well, simply not that. We talk about how to keep yourself in check and to kind of realize when you're trying to chase this false reality, and how sometimes chasing perfection can actually be beneficial. There's lots of great stuff in this episode, and I think you guys will enjoy the addition of my two fantastic co hosts. Also, listen to the end because in the last 2 minutes, there's a blooper. I accidentally left the recording session, and the two of them were still in there, and they were kind of talking some smack about me. Hope you guys like this episode. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk 20's, episode 12. I'm switching it up on you guys. You don't know what I'm going to do next. But from here on forward, I think I'm going to try a little bit different of a format. Instead of it being one-on-one with a guest, I am deciding to bring along GT and Connor here to be co-hosts, and hopefully this trio will stay consistent for every episode, and then occasionally we'll have a guest as the fourth person in, but we're going to change it up and see how it goes. So fellas, what's going on?
Man, I'm excited, dude. This is my third. Holy cow.
Oh my
But
god.
Wow.
man, I know this is my third one now, but I'm excited, man. Excited to get to know Connor more and let's
Yeah.
have fun and let's dive into these, man.
Congrats
What
on
about
the
you,
third
Connor?
one, GT. This is only my second one. I'm
Man, he'll
excited.
get there, baby. You'll get there.
I'll graduate to your level one day.
Hey, no, it's not even that much.
That's awesome, though. Thanks for having us, Tanner. Seriously, man. I
Absolutely.
really appreciated you thinking of us with this. It meant a lot.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I think it's going to be a great addition to the podcast, kind of vamp it up a little bit. And, it's always great to get a third POV into a certain topic. I hate to admit that sometimes I think a little linearly, but it's always great to have different personalities and different perspectives on things. The more the merrier in that aspect. But today's topic, fellas, imperfectly perfect, or vice versa, perfectly imperfect. Kind of discussing how a lot of people are chasing the idea of trying to reach perfection, or think that they're these awful people because they're not perfect. And society kind of brought us up, at least millennial generation, that you have to be perfect in the view of others, and social media kind of doubled down on that. So I think this will be a great episode to kind of talk about that, break it down, and share our thoughts on that. So what do you guys think?
Absolutely. I'm excited to do this because we talked a little bit about this in episode 10 and I'm very excited to see what Connor thinks and just all of us get together, three beautiful minds together talking about a great topic.
Absolutely. It's a really interesting mindset and perspective to think about, like, why we even started thinking this way in the first place. So I'm just curious to see, like, what y'all's thoughts are and how our generation and all of these people even got here in the first place. Like, how do we find ourselves in this situation where
Yeah.
we keep thinking about ourselves like that, So it'll be fun to break it down, definitely.
Well, you guys both had the same mindset on the first question I had for you both, which is, why do you think people have this need to be perfect, specifically people in their 20s, to kind of carry on the theme of this episode? But Connor, I want you to answer first with this one. What do you have for this?
Well, yeah, I saw this question and I mean, the first thing that I thought of, we talked about this in your first episode, Tanner, like the pressure of like what happens after college, right? And what's supposed to happen next and what you're supposed to do, right, when you're done with college, right? And so it's like, as we start to get into our 20s, we have this path that we've been following for years and years. We've been following school, then we've been following college, and everybody thinks that in order to be successful in this world, you have to have this path that you got to follow, whether you choose to go into, I don't know, accounting, you go be a doctor, go be a lawyer, or whatever, right? And there's like this like set path that you got to follow. And we're told from a very young age, and it's like, I don't want to say we're brainwashed, but it's like repeated in our minds over and over and over again that we have to like keep following this path. And so I think as we start to discover ourselves more after we get out of the school system and start to like figure out more of ourselves in our 20s, it's like we keep having this rigorous path for ourselves. And so it's like we're conditioned to feel the need to be perfect because we've been brought up that way with how we were raised and how like society has like formed us as kids to follow this path. That was the first thing that I thought of. And then you see all these successful people in the world too that you maybe look up to with your career path, for example, and you're like, oh, they must have followed the path perfectly, so I have to follow it perfectly. And then you compare yourself. So I think those two things alone, at least to start off like the question, those were like the first two things I thought of is you compare yourself to people who go on the same path as you as, oh, they did it perfectly, so I got to do it. And then it's just, we're conditioned to.
Yeah. I would say I completely agree with both of those things. I think that comparing with not only people that are on the same path as you, but also, completely different journeys. And you like see these famous, let's say rappers, for example, that, they're flexing having $300,000, in their music video or whatever, on their YouTube video or even on their social media, and you're like, oh man, they're perfect. They got their stuff together. I want to be like that. Or man, I wish I had that $300,000. So even yes, the people that have the same path as you, but even people who are completely irrelevant or these celebrities, I don't think they really help the mix either. But GT, what do you got to add to that too, man?
So absolutely, I completely agree with Connor and y'all on that. I think it's crazy how society really tries to mold people into what it wants, and that's where people need to find how everyone's definition of perfect is completely different, and
Mhm.
perfection is not followed the same way with everybody in the world, because when you look at it, every single person has a completely different situation with parents, family, social life, community, and you can keep going, and the line goes on and on and on like a scroll, and you'll never have something completely the same. So finding the little things where to chase quote unquote perfection is wrong because everyone has a different definition.
Yeah.
So it's finding your definition of perfection. That's what I thought of. I thought of what Connor said with community and what society wants us to be. But instead of being a mold to others, why not create our own mold into who we want to be and what we should be and pursuing your purpose, like our last podcast?
Yeah. Well, and to be completely clear, there is no such thing as a perfect person.
Absolutely not.
As much as I
Mhm.
would love to say, my role models or my parents or even my girlfriend, there's no such thing as a perfect individual, and that's the beauty of life and get to be friends with other people that are either similar or different than you. You kind of pick up
Mhm.
on other people's personality traits and realize that everyone has flaws, but everyone is unique and special in their own way. But to go along those lines, about imperfections and imperfect people, what can imperfections show you about yourself? GT, I'll let you start with this one.
So I thought about this one a lot. Going off of the molds, we create our own mold. Imperfections could be characteristics, personality, sense of humor, laugh. I mean, anything and everything. And I think that just being you and what you want to be out for is perfect in a way, So I think that, you can consider them flaws slash imperfections, but they're like physical, psychological, but they're different in everyone in this earth. And there's what, close to 8 billion people in this world now,
Yeah.
over 8 billion. So it's a lot of different characteristics.
Yeah.
So I think those flaws, imperfections make us unique. I think every little imperfection is honestly beautiful.
Absolutely. Connor, what you got, man?
Dude, GT, you hit it right on the money. Like, I absolutely agree with you, and I love that you focused on perfection and how it's defined. Really should be different based on who you are as a person, because like you said, nobody's the same, and your imperfections can paint a picture of who you truly are. One of my favorite quotes when I think about perfection and imperfection, I think about mistakes a lot when I think about that, right? Because we think when we make a mistake or we have a weakness, that's like a bad thing. But one of my favorite quotes I've heard from Bob Ross is, "There are no mistakes, only happy little accidents."
Amen.
And it's like, it's such a beautiful thing to try to embrace your imperfections and your quote unquote weaknesses, because you can't change them. You're born with them. And maybe those things that are considered imperfections or weaknesses are just a byproduct of the society that you're in. It's up to you to figure out what you want to do with that. And it's up to you to use those things to define yourself. So you can really learn a lot about yourself if you embrace your imperfections and you fully understand them, because then you'll get a full picture of who you are. And I think you'll find a level of deep understanding with yourself that you might have avoided in the first place if you just try to be perfect all the time.
Yeah.
So I think you really hit it on the money, GT. I think embracing how different we are, and embracing and maybe even looking at it in a different way, that they're not even imperfections. They're just our thing, whether or not somebody thinks it's an imperfection, maybe they're not meant to be there in your life in the first place. If they think it's an imperfection, somebody else might not think it's a mistake or an imperfection about you. It's all about perspective.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And to add to that too, if we were all perfect, then why would we need each other? If I was so perfect and I didn't need my plumber to come out and fix something in my house, then I don't need that person. I don't need to interact and make these relationships with others. And that's the beauty of the vulnerability of everyone kind of needing each other in this like coexisting thing that we call life. When people come and go in our life, we need other people. That's why we're all
Mm-hmm.
not perfect. We need each other. And that can go for any kind of relationship with a person, whether it's a friend, or let's say we're attracted to this girl because she's so driven and has such a great work ethic, and we're different because that's something that we need to work on, is our work ethic. So if we were all perfect, we wouldn't need each other. And that's the beauty of being flawed, or like you said, Connor, happy little accidents. It's a way for us to feel vulnerable, but also feel loved by others because we're needed. So to talk about that, my last question for you guys before I let you guys kind of ask your own is, how does someone feel comfortable being vulnerable? How does someone feel comfortable in their own skin if they think that they're not perfect and they're trying to achieve this never ending cycle of perfection? So I'll let GT start this one.
Okay. So, oh man, I could go on about this for a long time. And you know this firsthand, Tanner, how growing up, I put on a fake face and persona. And that's why 20s are very important years for us in being vulnerable, because a lot of people try to act as if they have everything figured out, which we've talked about in all these podcasts, and even going all the way back to the first podcast with Connor. You
Yeah.
know, you get out of college, and like Connor said, society tries to mold people. How can people be themselves and be vulnerable? You can't be vulnerable at that point. But I
Yeah.
think when you accept vulnerability at an earlier age, you grow faster and you learn more about yourself than any others. And that correlates to maturity. But it's tough
Mm-hmm.
because everyone matures at a different rate. But
Amen.
I think being vulnerable is where you really get to learn more and experience more and not just exist but live more. And
Mhm.
I think better comes through being vulnerable and being uncomfortable, because that girl that you think, man, she's good looking. I love our conversation. She cares about me. I care about her. I'm going to shoot my shot. You never know. You got to be vulnerable. You have to take that leap of faith and you have to be confident in it. You can't hesitate, because Lord help you if you hesitate and start stuttering, because then that's lack of confidence.
We've all been
And
there.
yeah, no,
We've all been
exactly.
there. We've all been there.
Exactly. But don't be happy with where you are and on that island that you're on, because if you take that leap of faith and swim maybe a couple miles, you could find
Damn.
an absolute utopia
But I got
that
sharks on
you've
my ass,
been
bro.
dreaming of. Hey, better get to swimming, big man.
Couple miles, bro. That fuck that. I'll stay on my
Gonna
island.
be built after that swim, I tell you.
No kidding, bro. Now that girl won't stutter. Or I
For a
won't stutter when I talk to
utopia?
that
Are
girl.
you kidding me?
Hey man, Connor, what you got to add to that, bro?
For utopia, I would do anything. But like we said, utopia is your own definition of what utopia is for you. So
Exactly.
who knows what utopia is for me? Maybe I would ski to utopia instead of swim. I don't know. But
I thought about this question and I kind of touched on it a little bit with my answer before, but it's weird that being vulnerable and being open is almost viewed, not always, but in certain situation it's like viewed as weakness. Like I think with men and with toxic masculinity,
Yep.
for example, I think us showing our emotions, us being open, us crying, us expressing our emotions is looked at sometimes negatively, because like we've had to bear this burden of not showing that and being strong and being strong-willed and having that ideal image of what a man is supposed to be. But being vulnerable is more strong than just acting strong, because you have to come to terms with yourself before you can be vulnerable, and you have to embrace yourself before you can be vulnerable and feel comfortable doing that. And in order to feel comfortable with it, you have to just accept who you are, regardless of how you feel about it. You can't change it, That's how I think people feel comfortable, is learn everything you can about yourself, and you take those leaps of faith so that you can learn things about yourself, kind of like GT was honing in on. Don't be afraid, be confident, and in doing so, you will find out more about yourself than you could ever know, and you'll learn to be comfortable being vulnerable. And so you're not afraid to be vulnerable, especially to the people that matter, like this fictional girl that we keep talking about. Like, guys, is there
Shout out to
somebody
her,
in
bro.
mind? Yeah, I mean,
Shout out to her.
shout out to her. Like,
Shout out to my girl, baby.
Whoa, whoa. Oh
Oh,
man,
I
yeah.
love you, baby.
I love you wherever you are.
He's downstairs.
I would agree with you, and the beauty about it is not even necessarily having to change. If you're uncomfortable about something, not even physically changing what you want to change, but turning that mindset itself and being more accepting of yourself, more comfortable in your skin. That itself, before you even actually work on yourself, does wonders to your mentality and how you physically view yourself and everything like that. So if you're not feeling comfortable being vulnerable, the best thing to do is just look at yourself in the mirror and realize that you are who you are. And sure, you can improve yourself physically and do better in school and this and that, but who you are as an individual, your soul, your core, your principles, your morals, yourself, you have to look at yourself in the mirror and say, this is who I am, and people are going to love me and hate me, but at least I'm being who I truly am. So when you feel
Mhm.
vulnerable, don't immediately think, oh man, I have to change this and this about myself. More so think of being more accepting and showing more self-love, because that is the first step before you make that change. Be more accepting of yourself and realize where you have
Yep.
to go.
To
So that's
add
all I
on,
Yeah,
to
go for
add
it.
on to this, because it was on my mind. So you talk about vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a mindset. People think, oh, at this age, it's going to happen. That's absolutely incorrect. People go through different things, and that's why I think people that grow up in hard situations where they have to grow up quicker, their vulnerability is already past what they can handle, and they have to
Mm.
already go into something like that. God forbid, let's talk 20s. You get out of college, boom, God forbid, family member or something, right?
Yeah.
You have to grow up even faster. That's
Yeah.
something that I was really thinking about with you, and also with what Connor was talking about and being a man. I think that is something that every single one of us, struggle with, but being able to come out of your shell, be vulnerable like he talked about and how you talked about on top of it, that's where we find those little things and grow, like y'all said,
Yeah.
and we become more of the man that may not be what other people want us to be, but the man that we want and need to be in life.
Yep. I would agree with that. And also, I know there actually are some women that listen to the podcast. So we're men, obviously, and we know the stereotypes with men, but don't get it twisted. There is most certainly stereotypes with women, and you guys have your own struggles and are viewed, in certain ways that obviously are not supposed to be acceptable, but unfortunately are the normal.
Right.
And so, not we're obviously talking about men, but women go through their own societal obstacles and challenges into early adulthood. And I just want to let you know that you're also valued on this podcast.
Absolutely. We love you, ladies, and y'all go through more than we ever know. And
Literally.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
I'll talk to my girlfriend. Connor name's Addison, so if I say Addison, you
That's
know
how
what I'm
I
talking
know.
about. But she'll talk to me throughout the day and comments, words, people walking around staring. It's crazy because no
Yeah.
one's gonna say that to us guys because they
No.
know if you don't come correct, trust me, we're gonna have to correct you. But ladies,
Man.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say because you're bringing it up, and to add on to it, like just for example, this last weekend I had a friend that I went out with to a bar, and she's a super sweet, super nice person. She's very talkative, and so she talks to people in public a lot. And we were at a bar, and she talked to this guy, and he thought she was flirting with him, and she wasn't. She was just trying to make a friend and get to know him a little bit, and he took it the wrong way, and she tried to be vulnerable and talk about some things as well, and he took it as her like flirting and hitting on him. And I like Tanner said, we're all guys, like we don't understand it completely, obviously, but it's got to be so frustrating to try to be yourself, and your intentions, no matter what you do, like
Yep.
while you're trying to be vulnerable or just being yourself, are going to get misinterpreted.
Yeah.
And that happens, of course, more for women, like 3, 5 times, 10 times, however many times for women, way more than it does guys, because it's not fair for that. So absolutely,
Yeah.
Tanner, I'm glad you
Yeah.
brought that up.
I'm just going to leave it at that. I could talk about that, but it would be a much farther tangent. But I want, Connor, I want you to go through a few of your questions that you have for GT and I.
Sure. Yeah, I actually had one that kind of came up as we were talking about it. It was kind of going back to Tanner's first question. Why do people feel the need to be perfect? And we touched on it a little bit, and I think Tanner mentioned it briefly. So Tanner, I'd like you to start. How much of a role do you think social media has changed our definitions of perfection, and how has it influenced specifically like more recent generations and our standards of perfection?
It's so tough, bro, because here's how I feel. Like, if you really, and this is probably going to be a hot take, but like, even if you break it down to early adulthood, right? These girls, since we were just talking about women, these girls, man, they idolize these Disney princesses and their perfect life, or they're living in this big castle and everything's great. Well, some of them, the stories are not great, but you know what I'm trying to get at.
Mhm.
And so these girls idolize these princesses, and then they grow up, and then they see these teen movies of these girls in high school falling in love with the person of their life and this and that, and their life was perfect, but they had to be this tall, this skinny, have these certain physical features, yada yada. And then you get social media, and then what are the girls that are getting the most likes and comments and DMs and all this and that? It's the pretty girls, a certain physique.
Fucking sad.
Yeah,
Um,
it is.
a lot of their upbringing is based on physical looks. And so when a lot of women are brought into the workforce and they bring more to the table than looks, they're either second guess.
Even other women.
Yeah, even other women, bro. And so that's for the woman perspective. And then for the guys, you grow up on these superheroes that can punch through walls and save the world, and then you get into the teen movies, and it's Twilight, and it's Taylor Lautner with the six pack, and you're like, oh my god, I want to be a werewolf when I'm older too.
Thanks, Lochner.
Yeah, shout out to Taylor Lautner. And then same thing with the guys on social media, bro. It's the guys who are getting all the girls, who has the most money. You got to be this influencer, you got to have this car, this crib, all this shit. So it's like the celebrities and how the opposite gender responds to who's posting or who's getting the most likes. So how the girls are responding to these rappers, NBA stars, etc., and how the guys are responding to these Instagram models makes that the opposite sex, feel kind of, if you're just an average Joe like me, it makes you feel a little, at times feel a little vulnerable. So
Yeah.
social media has played a big role in terms of kind of idolizing this ultra 1% of the population. And if you let that get to your head and you try to achieve that six pack and try to be this rich person, and that's not who you are at your core, I feel like that kind of takes away from who you want to be yourself and your
Yeah.
own principles you're trying to chase. So yeah, that's kind of like my negative view on social media, and kind of like how social media has kind of altered the people that grew up on it, like us, people our age, people in their 20s, that kind of, unfortunately, were the pioneers of the social media. So that's my answer. I'm sorry for it being so long.
No, don't apologize.
No.
That's a fantastic
Beautiful.
answer. I think media in general, before it got so popular with the internet and everything, of course, has always impacted these kind of standards, and people have always compared themselves. But just with our highly increased access to it now, it just happens so much more, and I think it's just gotten more and more negative too. I mean, I don't think it's a controversial opinion here. Obviously, maybe some people would feel differently. GT, how do you feel about it, man?
Oh, so I touched on it with Tanner a little bit in previous episode, Pursue Your Purpose, but mainly in 10th episode, and how it's okay to not be okay and everything, and just breathe. I could go on forever, but I think Tanner really hit it on the head. It's could be used for good or bad, and how people use it is where it goes. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
people now, like girls, they'll post thirst traps,
Yeah.
and guys, taking money out of their bank account, getting all ones and hiding them, like they really think they're something. Like, hey, my man, I know those are ones because I just saw you working at Publix. But I think it absolutely can be used for bad purposes and putting on that fake persona, like I said in episode 10 and
Yeah.
episode 11. But also, you can use it for good and to empower those around you. And I think that's up to the person to subconsciously look and seek after the good instead of the bad, because it's extremely easy to fall into bad habits or fall into the bad stuff
Yeah.
because that's where everyone else is going to. But that's why the 1% are the 1%, and that's why the people who are happy with life, those are the people that you need to talk to, and those are the ones that don't fall into the bad because they know it's bad, but they want better for themselves. So I think it's all about how you use it for either good or bad. And
Mm.
like y'all said, we were pioneers of this. We are dealing with it and we
Yeah.
get to see all the changes because and people who wanted to do rappers, social media has helped the rapper platform
Oh yeah.
like nobody's business. If
Mm-hmm.
TikTok has made random people popular for a noise, a random look,
Yeah.
and I think it's just crazy that we're the pioneers and we see all these little things with social media and how people think, oh, this is perfect, but it's not perfect because, like we said earlier, happy little mistakes, like you said, Connor,
Mm-hmm.
or those specific characteristics make someone in their eyes the perfect them or the better them.
I can see that perspective. I definitely think there's good things about it. I mean, it's just so nice. I mean, that we have something like this, for example. We're all in different places, and I don't think this would have been possible had not like people found a way to want to talk to each other in this kind of setting where we can like record ourselves and just talk like this. You know, like social media made something like this possible, just this podcast alone, for example. So just like the whole outreach and being able to express yourself. And then I think you brought up a really great point for certain people's careers, like who never would have been famous and who should have their work put out there. Absolutely. It's such a beautiful thing. I'll touch briefly on it. Like for me, I think I lean probably a little more towards your side, Tanner. Like you said, GT, I agree with you. It depends on how you use it. But I do think that we look at people's highlight reels in life now rather than look at their movie or hear about their movie. That's kind of the way I think about it.
I like that.
Ooh,
Yeah.
Like,
that's nice.
yeah, like
Yeah.
it's like we see the highs, you know, we see the destination, we see the big celebration moments, and that's great because you want to celebrate those things in life and you want to make people feel good about those things. But it's almost like that's how we've started defining ourselves, is the destination and looking for the destination rather than like what was the journey. You know, how long did it take that person to get there? How many years did they struggle and have nothing? Did they even have nothing? Was it all given to them? I mean, we don't know. We just see the end result at the end of the day, and we only see the highlight that people want us to see. So I think that it's impacted standards of perfection because you can selectively choose how you're viewed, and because that's the only way that you would be exposed to certain people in life, it starts to make you compare yourself a little bit. And it kind of leads me to my next question, which I guess I'll go into now. How much do you guys think perfection has to do with comparing ourselves to other people? Why don't you start this one? How much do you think it has to do with that?
Oh my gosh, everything. It is sad.
Yeah.
It's sad to see how society, everyone was so happy with everything because we found what we love to do. we I know us specifically in your 20s, people in their 20s right now, I'm sure can relate to this. We did not have the toys, the games, the consoles, social media that all these kids have nowadays. So, and people get to flex that on social media and they're comparing each other like, "Oh, I have a PS5. You got a what? PS4? Oh, you suck." It's like, my man, it's only been out for a year. What are you talking about?
Right.
So, people trying to always one up each other is ridiculous. And I think it's annoying. And like you said earlier, people try to have that perfect life and be better than other people, and that's where we see on social media, and people compare themselves. And I talked with Tanner on this, I want to say a little bit on a previous podcast, where people compare themselves to others and they're not happy. It's sad to see everyone comparing each other instead of them being their true selves, and that's what makes a community, and different views and perspectives is what makes a very successful community and a very successful company, friend group, because each one in here, you see GT Fletcher, you see Tanner Perry, and you see Connor Lawson. Yeah, we're all buddies and we love talking with each other and on these topics, but we're very different people, and that's
Mhm.
why People like to come listen to different things and they want different views.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I like that you brought us into this too. Like, absolutely. We all come from different backgrounds. Like, we all come from different places, and we're not comparing ourselves to each other and how we're talking about this stuff. We all have our own strengths and in what we bring just to this conversation alone. And if we can look at his podcast like that, then absolutely, like, people can find that in themselves when they keep comparing themselves to other people. So I really liked that you made it very personal. Tanner, what about you, man?
I think you can compare yourself to others as much as you want to, and I think that's the end result of how much you care about how others view you or the impact that has on your own personal life. Your definition of perfection or being perfect in your eyes might be different than me being perfect. Your perfect life could be living on a cow farm in Texas, and mine could be being the richest person in the world. So everyone's different definition of perfect plays a part about that. But I think obviously comparing yourself to others and everyone trying to one up each other definitely adds, fuel to the fire. It definitely makes the situation much worse. But I feel like it's ultimately your perspective on how much of that you want to apply to your own personal life, or if you truly do want to compare yourself to others. But definitely plays a significant role to 99.9% of people, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
I think on top of that, I think when you stop comparing, that's where the growth in being perfectly imperfect or imperfectly perfect, that's where the growth is. And that's something
Yes.
that is essential and needed
Yeah,
for each and every person, both males and females,
that's right.
all
That's right.
over,
Or
you know.
however you choose to identify.
Exactly, hey, exactly. Nowadays in society, we love you all.
Man, I'm gonna get in trouble because you made me laugh by that. Not by what you said, but just I wasn't expecting that one. I'm sorry.
No, I had to throw it in. And I love what you said. Like, that's where growth comes from, GT. Because, like you said earlier, we all are so different from each other, and we all should have our own definitions of perfections just for ourselves, because we're all so different, and we need to just embrace that about ourselves. So in order to really grow, you have to embrace that and have your own definition of perfection. And you alluded to that, and I think that's brilliant. So yeah, I love that. I don't want to take up too much with my questions. GT, I know you had a couple of questions. Did you want to share them with us, my friend?
Absolutely, let's do it, guys. So this is a great one. I'm glad we did it the way because these all are lining up great. So, is chasing perfection? You know what, Tanner? I know you fairly more than I do, Connor. So I want to see what Connor got first.
Yeah.
So, Connor, is chasing perfection? You can take this as: is it helping you or is it hurting you, or is it in both ways? Just kind of me getting to understand you more, and for our audience, because this is now a trio. You get to deal with three of us on a regular basis. So
good luck to our audience. No, I'm just kidding. But oh man, it's been a pleasure, GT. Seriously, if you're talking about me personally, that's a good
yes.
question. This has a little bit to do with one of the questions that I had written down previously, and it was like, what is the difference between like self-discipline and self-perfection, and like in chasing perfection, I think you can find discipline along the way so that you know how to discipline yourself, meet your own schedule, make yourself a budget, for example. So I think it can help like in that aspect. But for me, and I think a lot of people, I think it hurts me far more because I'm my own biggest critic. And so if I chase perfection and I don't hit the goal that I had in mind, I am so hard on myself that I almost do nothing because I didn't meet that goal that I had for myself.
Yes.
Like for example, I'm trying to teach myself acoustic guitar right now because I have to go audition at School of Music on a chordal instrument for this new major I'm going into. And I don't know how to play acoustic super well. So I set a schedule for myself. Last week, I forgot to meet the schedule and I had a horrible day. I let it affect my whole mood. I was like, I can't believe I didn't meet it. I didn't practice yesterday. I really need to stick to it. And I was so hard on myself. And that hurt me the whole day. Like that hurt my mood. That hurt my emotions. I work with kids now. I didn't have a good day with the kids because I wasn't focused on that. And so for me, because I chased something that was unobtainable in the first place, it completely hurt me. So I think it can help, but for me, it hurts me more than it helps me. Yeah.
I love that. I completely agree with you. And you just said it, unattainable. You'll see that a lot of people would say how that to them means perfection is unattainable because perfection is not a one set thing that we've talked about multiple times. But I think that was very beautiful to see how your personal example, and that's why I asked, because for people to come on this podcast, they need to hear different examples, in my opinion, need to hear different examples. And
Yeah,
that's
man.
why I'm going to go straight over to Tanner. And that's a beautiful one because I'm sure, I know Tanner's not playing an acoustic guitar. I promise you that one. So,
Fuck off.
I know he's not doing that. So,
Surprise, we're doing it together. No, I'm just kidding.
hey, it's going to be the Three Musketeers out here playing acoustic before you know it. For you,
GT.
Tanner, is chasing perfection helping you or hurting you?
Well, my definition of perfection has changed over the years. And something I had to learn the hard way is I need to stop chasing perfection and I need to start chasing what the best I can do is. There is a difference of what my standards and what I want to achieve is, and then the reality of what I am physically able to achieve. In a previous episode, I talked about how and I still do. Right now, I don't have too much stuff outside work going on, but when I was in college, I would do a to-do list of everything I had to achieve. And over time, I started to realize that I was doing stuff from when I woke up to, when I was about to go to bed. And yeah, it's rewarding to do all this stuff and check everything off my list, but why do I have so much shit on my list? And I realized that I was giving myself too much to do. And if I didn't accomplish that long list, daunting list every single day, then I would feel empty on the inside, similar to how Connor felt about the acoustic guitar. So once I had that epiphany, my kind of mindset changed from, instead of trying to chase this kind of idea of perfection, I'm more so trying to achieve what's the best that Tanner can do today, and how do I achieve that? So I didn't necessarily lower my standards. I more so kind of changed my way of going about chasing this perfection, quote unquote. And since then, I've had a much more healthy relationship with myself, and then also a much more healthy relationship with my work ethic, and it's made my goals more digestible and easier for me to feel accomplished and not be so hard on myself. So I would say, does chasing perfection help you or hurt you? I would say it hurts you if you have that mindset of chasing perfection. And now if you switch that around and more so think, does chasing the best version of yourself, or does, daily work on yourself help you or hurt you? I would say that helps you.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I think because I know me personally, I'd always contact you in college and still do. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure Connor did it as same, and he and I both probably thought the same thing. Man, he never just takes just breathe,
Oh, I know.
relax.
Oh, I
It's,
agree.
you're doing so much and trying to be everything everywhere. We love you. Oh, we love you. Don't get it twisted. But boy, we could never get a hold of you because God forbid we try to call you and then something happens. It's like, dude, I swear I'm about to drive to Auburn. But
No,
I
that was just
think,
UGT.
yeah, it was probably he just nope. Can't answer his call. Nope.
I
Nope.
know, and
No,
it's
I
funny
know.
you
It
bring that
wasn't
up
just you.
because because
Personal do not disturb.
Connor would say the same thing to me too. It's funny you brought that up, but yeah, it's something I'm working on, and I have been working on. I think right now I'm a lot better, and In
Yes.
addition to that, I think what I've achieved within the last few years overall has been more significant than when I was so hard on myself and had that chasing perfection mindset. But sorry to interrupt you, but I had to crack a joke, but
Nah, absolutely. I love it. I think me personally as well, perfection, both helping and hurting, we covered it. And I think for me personally, I always assigned baseball as who I was, and that was completely wrong of me, and I should have never done it, but I did. Can't take the past away. I can only learn from my past, but I'm happy that I did do that now because I see the beauty in art and learning and the growth from that and the process to get to where I am because of that is beautiful. And that's going off of what Connor said earlier. Boy, and that was a good quote. That hit me deep. I got the chills when he said this. How everyone, it's a highlight tape. We see the destination, the end of a movie, but we don't see what leads up to it. That hit me deep. I got chills immediately as he said that. I was like, man, I got to step my game up. So
Mine's good on the fly,
it's not a
bro.
competition, bro.
No, it is.
no.
It is.
All right. Well, I got 2
All right,
points.
Connor, that we got. Trust me, we got Tanner on this one. With text on the side. But
Damn.
I think because of I used to chase perfection, it helped me with the competitive side with working out and everything, but I
Yeah.
didn't take time to thoroughly enjoy the little things in life. And it's both it's however you want to take it, and I love to be positive about it, and it's sad to look back at it on
Well,
how
sorry to interrupt you real quick. I just have to say, I actually ask you a question on top of that before you continue. It's like my thing about that too, in a different realm but similar situation, was then you're working so hard and you're trying to reach that end goal. But I bet you look back now and wish that you sat back and enjoyed the process more instead of trying to chase. You're forgetting the present and appreciating the hard work you're putting in the moment, right?
oh my God, that hits hard.
Yeah.
And going off of that, it's no matter what it is, it's everyone's personal thing. You know, Connor doing acoustic guitar, you chasing after PT school, me still playing baseball. It's three completely different things, but for all of us to kind of have a mindset of enjoy the process and every little thing because those little things make you who you are later on. And it's
Right.
crazy how one little decision
Man.
can change your whole life. Your
Yeah.
life could be completely changed. And it's just something that just enjoy the little things, enjoy the process, because if you can enjoy the process, it's going to make the end goal even better and it's going to help your mindset. If you can't enjoy the little things, then the end goal isn't going to be as beautiful, and your time and how you carry yourself and go about things is going to change potentially for worse, which is God, we don't want that.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
I would agree with
man.
you, GT. I would agree with you.
I gotta
GT,
say, by the way,
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt, Tanner. I gotta say, enjoy the little things because they make you who you are later is a big one. That is a mindset that I am trying to adopt right now with all these new changes that I'm doing in my life. So yeah, GT, that's a awesome perspective. I'm so glad we're all on that same page, and I'd love to hear more about what you're doing with your baseball too, man. Like seriously, that's a great perspective.
GT, was that the first question or second question you've
that was the
asked?
second. So
Okay. All right. Well,
yeah.
does anyone have any closing thoughts? We're going to try to wrap it up here to keep the time a little shorter. But if anyone has any closing thoughts about anything over the episode, go ahead, and then we'll close it there.
I've loved every second of this. How we just talked about the little things. I felt like I've learned way more about Connor because for everybody listening to the podcast, I've met Connor once.
Yep.
I met him.
Yep.
God, how many years is that
7.
now?
It must
But
have
we
been,
don't
it
need to
must have
talk
been
about
7
it.
years.
7?
We
Are
don't
you
need to talk about it.
Are
Yep.
you sure it wasn't
7
8
years.
years? It took you a little bit longer in
I
college,
forgot about
Tanner.
7 years, baby.
But yeah, I haven't talked to him in so long, but now the little decisions in our life now have brought Con and I both back onto Tanner's podcast that we are now co-hosts of together. So it's crazy how those little things come together and how now Tanner is both best friends. I know Tanner is my best friend in this world besides my girlfriend. Shout out, love you, baby. And you know, Tanner and Connor, I'm sure y'all are best friends as well.
Yeah.
And it's something how the little things in life, when they add up, make into this beautiful art piece of life. And it's crazy. So
I agree, man. And it's like one thing that I really appreciate about you, just getting to know you over this podcast too, GT, is like you appreciate these things in the moment, you know, because when you learn to appreciate the little things in the moment and stop focusing on perfection, you learn how to be more present in the moment. And I pick up that vibe from you immediately. And so it's just been great to hear how you've adopted this perspective, and I can hear it in the podcast. I mean, gosh, yeah, you said 7 years ago. I vividly remember talking to you at that party now, like, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And so now we get to talk every week, and it's great because it's like this perspective of enjoying the little things and enjoying the journey means that perfection is not the goal anymore. Now it's just, let's just be our best selves. And I love what you said, Tanner, just focus on being the best version of yourself every day. That's such an awesome perspective. No wonder you're such a good guy, dude. Like
he's all right. Don't give him too much credit.
I'm
gonna got a big head. He's gonna have to get a new capsize.
I gotta make him blush a little, man. I gotta make you both blush a little.
Oh man, yeah, guys, this was freaking phenomenal.
Host.
Hey, I thought this was fantastic. I really like the format of it and having the two of you on, two of my closest friends. I know both of your stories individually, and you guys are starting to piece together the other person's story as well. But all three of us, from let's say 7 years ago when we first met to now, and seeing how we started out trying to be this person, we all went to college or try to pursue baseball or whatever our dream was back then 7 years ago, and we thought that was the perfection we're trying to chase. And it's crazy how we're talking about perfection, but our perfection changed. Our view of perfection, the perfect life that we want, has evolved and adapted and changed within the last 7 years. So if that doesn't say anything about the topic itself of how, you know, you don't need to chase this perfection. Love yourself, love your imperfections, your flaws, whatever you want to, the happy little accidents, whatever you want to call them, because even this thing you're trying to achieve now that you think is perfect, it will change, or it may not be available in the future. So you're chasing it for nothing. You just never know. So be yourself, love yourself. I love these two guys with everything I got. I love all you guys for listening. And thanks again for tuning in for this episode of Let's Talk 20's, episode 12. Boys, we're signing off.
All right.
Pleasure.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
See you guys. Till next time.
Peace out.
Peace out.
See you.
Peace.
Bye.
Yo, did he just leave us?
Wait, is this just a recording now? I thought we were going to talk
still
after.
Recording. Shout out to everybody. Tanner
All right,
left.
everyone, we love you.
So now you get
here.
bloopers. We're still here, Connor and
Wait,
I. This is a little. We got the bloopers coming up shortly.
I thought we were gonna cam and like talk about it. Wait, I'm so confused.
And now, this is beautiful. Everyone gets the behind the scenes. Now he is FaceTime calling both Connor and I.
Oh, he is? Oh, yeah,
Look
he
at
is.
this.
Oh my gosh.
Man,
I feel like this isn't as efficient as us just chilling here after and him just like cutting off the recording. No, I mean,
you know what? Hey, people. For all of the, if you want the lows on it, here, we got the lows on Tanner. If you want the DL.
Dude, that's...
Hello?
Oh, we get to see his face. Holy cow,
and Tanner's
what
back.
is going on?
Bro,
he's
alive.
alive.
Bitches, and you weren't answering me. God damn.
Well, we're still recording, aren't we?
Man, so...
Wait, what?
Yeah,
no,
people are gonna
we
hear
are
these
still
bloopers.
recording, big man.
It says 12 seconds for me.
Oh,
Dog, you are crazy.
It says an hour for me.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, it says an hour for me,
I'm going to
too.
stop it now.